The year is 2024. Two colossal forces, the United States and Russia, stand locked in a chilling standoff. Decades of simmering tension have brought us to this precipice. The fate of the world hangs precariously in the balance. We're talking about weapons capable of obliterating entire cities in the blink of an eye. Every passing moment pushes us closer to the abyss. For generations, we've lived under the shadow of nuclear annihilation. The Cold War may be over, but the threat of nuclear war has never truly gone away. Imagine a world engulfed in flames, cities reduced to rubble and ash. The very air we breathe would become poisoned, the land barren and lifeless. The lucky ones would die quickly. The rest would face a slow, agonizing death from radiation sickness. The horrors of a nuclear war don't end there. Nuclear winter would plunge our planet into darkness and famine. This is the stark reality we face. This nightmare scenario is entirely preventable. We must find a way to bridge the divide, to tear down the walls of fear and mistrust. The future of humanity depends on it. Imagine this: New York City, Moscow, Beijing, London, all wiped off the map in the blink of an eye. A nuclear detonation is like unleashing the fury of 1,000 suns, instantly vaporizing everything in its path. Buildings crumble like sandcastles, steel melts like wax, and millions of lives are extinguished in a flash of blinding light. The lucky ones are vaporized instantly, their deaths mercifully swift. But for those who survive the initial blast, a horrifying ordeal awaits. Radiation sickness sets in, slowly and agonizingly eating away at their bodies. The after effects of a nuclear war will haunt our planet for generations to come.
Section 2. The Silent Killer, Radiation. Most folks don't understand the insidious nature of radiation. It's a silent killer, invisible and odorless, yet capable of wreaking havoc on a cellular level. Exposure to high levels of radiation can cause nausea, vomiting, hair loss, skin burns, internal bleeding, cancers of all kinds. Children are particularly vulnerable to the effects of radiation. We're talking about birth defects, genetic mutations, and a whole generation born into a world poisoned by our folly. This is the stark reality of a nuclear war.
Section 3. A global holocaust. The death toll from a full-scale nuclear war is almost too horrific to comprehend. We're talking hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, gone in the blink of an eye. Starvation, disease, and exposure would claim countless lives as the world plunged into chaos and anarchy. We'd be thrown back to the Stone Age, fighting over scraps and struggling to survive.
Section 4. The first 24 hours. The first 24 hours after a nuclear attack would be pure pandemonium. Imagine the skies ablaze with fire, the air thick with smoke and ash. Hospitals would be overwhelmed, their corridors overflowing with the dead and dying. Communication networks would collapse, plunging the world into darkness and uncertainty. Amidst all this chaos, a chilling realization would dawn upon the survivors. This is only the beginning.
All right, so the bombs have fallen. Cities are dust. Millions are gone, but the horror doesn't stop there. Now we got to deal with the fallout. Imagine a rain of radioactive dust, invisible but deadly, blanketing the planet. This stuff is laced with radioactive isotopes, nasty little particles that emit radiation like a car alarm on repeat. It seeps into the soil, contaminating our food supply. It poisons our water, turning a life-giving resource into a silent killer. Think about Chernobyl, folks. These disasters were just a taste of the widespread devastation a full-scale nuclear war would unleash. Now I know what you're thinking. Neil, radiation, that's bad. But what about the trees? What about the birds? And you know what? You're right to be worried. Because a nuclear war wouldn't just devastate human life, it would wreck the entire planet. Crops would wither and die. Forests would become barren wastelands. The delicate balance of nature would be shattered beyond repair. Imagine a world without bird song, without butterflies, where the only sound is the wind whistling through the ruins of our civilization. And don't even get me started on the oceans. We think we're so smart, dumping our trash and chemicals into the sea. But a nuclear war, that's a whole nother level of stupid. Radioactive runoff would poison marine life, turning our oceans into toxic soups. Fish stocks would collapse. The very ecosystems that provide us with food, oxygen, and regulate our climate would be pushed to the brink of collapse. So there you have it, folks. The long-term environmental damage caused by a nuclear war wouldn't be just a tragedy, it would be a crime against the planet, against all life on Earth. We're talking about a legacy of poison and destruction that would linger for centuries, if not millennia. We're talking about a planet scarred, perhaps irrevocably, by our own folly. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. We can choose a different path. The choice is ours. All right, folks, we've talked about the immediate devastation, the radiation, the poisoned environment, but now let's talk about the long, dark shadow that would follow a nuclear war, nuclear winter. Imagine millions of tons of soot and smoke from burning cities, forests, and oil refineries, all blasted into the upper atmosphere. This massive cloud would encircle the globe, blocking out the sun's light and warmth. Temperatures would plummet, plunging the planet into a deep freeze. Scientists have been warning about nuclear winter since the Cold War, and their models paint a chilling picture of a world on ice. Now, imagine a world without sunlight, a world where crops wither and die in the fields, where trees stand bare and lifeless. With no sunlight to fuel photosynthesis, the foundation of our food chain would crumble. Crops would fail, leading to mass starvation on a global scale. The struggle for survival would become a fight for every last crumb, every drop of water. The bonds of civilization would snap under the weight of such unimaginable suffering.
Section 3. The collapse of civilization. Imagine a world without electricity, without communication, without the basic necessities of life. A world where governments have crumbled, where law and order are nothing but distant memories. The rule of law would be replaced by the law of the jungle. The pursuit of knowledge and art would give way to the primal instincts of survival. The human spirit would be tested like never before.
Section 4. A world in ruins. Nuclear winter and the global famine it would unleash wouldn't just be a disaster. They would be a death knell for civilization as we know it. The world we leave behind would be a desolate wasteland, a grim testament to our hubris and our short-sightedness. Are we going to let this happen, or are we going to choose a different path, a path of peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding? The choice is ours, folks, and the time to choose is now.
Section 1. The Scars Within. Trauma and mental health. We've talked about the physical devastation, the environmental collapse, the societal breakdown. But there's another, equally insidious consequence of nuclear war: the psychological and emotional toll. Imagine the trauma of surviving a nuclear attack. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, survivor's guilt. These would be just a few of the mental health epidemics that would sweep through the shattered remnants of humanity. The psychological scars of nuclear war would run deep, leaving countless souls grappling with the invisible wounds of an unimaginable horror. And let's not forget the children, folks. They would carry the psychological burden of our actions for generations to come. Now, imagine a world where the very fabric of society has been torn apart, where trust is a luxury and suspicion and fear reign supreme. With resources scarce and the threat of violence ever present, communities would fracture, driven by desperation and the primal instinct to survive. Neighbors would turn on neighbors, former friends would become rivals. The rule of law would be replaced by the law of the jungle. The social contract would be shattered, leaving behind a world where isolation, fear, and violence would become the norm. The psychological fallout of a nuclear war wouldn't be confined to the immediate aftermath. The fear, the uncertainty, the knowledge that humanity had teetered on the brink of self-destruction, these would leave an indelible mark on the collective psyche of our species. The world would be a different place, folks. The carefree optimism of the past would be replaced by a pervasive sense of vulnerability. This constant fear and anxiety would have profound implications for global politics, international relations, and even our own personal relationships. The psychological wounds inflicted by a nuclear war would fester for generations, shaping the destiny of our species and casting a long, dark shadow over the future of humanity.
Now, some folks, usually those with more bombs than brains, might try to tell you there's a way to win a nuclear war. They'll whisper about limited strikes and strategic superiority. Don't buy it for a New York minute. In the twisted logic of nuclear war, victory is an illusion, a cruel mirage that vanishes the moment the first bomb drops. There are no winners in a nuclear exchange, only survivors, and even their existence would be a Pyrrhic victory at best. The very idea of controlling such a destructive force is arrogance of the highest order. It's like trying to bottle a hurricane, to leash a tsunami, to tame a force of nature that dwarfs our puny human comprehension. We're talking about weapons that can level cities, poison the land, and blot out the sun itself. There's no surgical strike, no clean kill when it comes to nukes. It's like playing Russian roulette with the entire planet. And there's no reset button, no do-overs. We lived for decades under the shadow of mad, mutually assured destruction. If one side launched a nuclear attack, the other would retaliate, ensuring annihilation. A deadly game of chicken, where the only winning move was not to play. Relying on annihilation to keep peace is like dancing on a razor's edge. Mad is a ticking time bomb, a relic of a bygone era. So where do we go from here? How do we escape the shadow of nuclear war? It's simple, folks, but not easy. It requires a fundamental shift in our thinking, a rejection of the zero-sum game that has dominated international relations for far too long. We need to embrace diplomacy, dialogue, and cooperation. We need to invest in conflict resolution, arms control, and disarmament. We need to build bridges, not walls, and find common ground in our shared humanity. It's time to recognize our interconnectedness, our shared destiny on this fragile planet. We're all in this together, folks, and the only way to ensure our collective survival is to work together. The alternative, clinging to outdated notions of national security, stockpiling weapons of mass destruction, and threatening annihilation, is a dead end, a path that leads only to ruin. It's time to choose a different path, a path of peace, a path of hope, a path that leads to a brighter future for all humankind. We've journeyed together through the hypothetical inferno of a nuclear war. We've witnessed firsthand the unimaginable horrors it would unleash, the searing heat of 1,000 suns, the silent killer that is radiation, the long, suffocating darkness of nuclear winter. We've seen the collapse of civilization, the unraveling of society. One chilling truth has emerged. Nuclear war is not a war we can win. We stand now at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in human history. We can choose a different path, a path of peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. The power to prevent nuclear war doesn't rest solely in the hands of world leaders and diplomats. It resides in each and every one of us. We, the citizens of this planet, have a responsibility to raise our voices, to demand a safer, saner world for ourselves and for generations to come. We need to engage in dialogue to challenge the rhetoric of fear and division that permeates our political discourse. We need to educate ourselves and others about the true costs of nuclear war, the devastating consequences that extend far beyond the battlefield. Support organizations working tirelessly for peace, disarmament, and nuclear non-proliferation. Contact your elected officials. Make your voices heard. Let them know that you demand a world free from the threat of nuclear annihilation. Remember, folks, silence is not an option. Apathy is not a strategy. The time to act is now. The challenges we face are daunting, I won't sugarcoat it. But I haven't lost hope, and neither should you. Amidst the darkness, there's a flicker of light, a spark of possibility. It's the indomitable spirit of humanity, our capacity for empathy and cooperation. We have the power to choose a different path, to create a brighter future. We can choose fear, or we can choose hope. We can choose destruction, or we can choose peace.